Hi everybody, I'm MJ Acosta Ruiz and this is Becoming Undefined. So the show is all about shedding the layers, crushing the stereotypes, breaking out of the box, and leaning into my personal mantra that many things can be true all at the same time. Now, one of the things I love about being a storyteller is really digging into people's backstories, their nuance, their texture, the things you may not see at first glance. That's particularly rewarding because I come from the world of sports, heavily male-dominated, where there's a lot of toxic masculinity, and what I've loved so far throughout my career is tapping into the deeper parts of these men who most of the time are under a helmet behind a jersey, and they sort of use that as a shield. I've mostly had women on the show, but it's a safe space for all. Our guest today is Sarunas Jackson. He's an actor and writer and producer, multi-hyphenate, also a fellow Afro Latino Panama stand-up, and a girl dad. You'll know him from his roles in Insecure, Good Trouble, and Presumed Innocent. Our theme for today is tapping into your identity, tapping into the different chapters of your life, and tapping into where you want to be next. So we'll be right back with Sarunas Jackson. So much for jumping on. You're actually the first man to be on the show.
I'm the first man.
The first man. It's been like
Honored.
ladies night the whole time.
Heavy ladies, yeah, of course. But you also had great guests, so I don't 100%.
Blame you. So this is adding to the layers.
This is nice though. Okay, great. Yeah.
No, I'm very happy that you're here. I want to start with a little POV, right? Because I think so much of us see peripherally stuff on people's Instagrams or whatever.
Yeah.
So that photo right there.
Yeah.
With you, Issa Rae, and LeBron James.
Yeah.
How did you end up with just two GOATs? Also, the fact that you, and you can grab that if you want. The fact that you and LeBron are like out of frame.
I know. You can't get
that is to scale.
Yeah. Foreheads out. Just
but what's the
eyebrows
backstory of that photo? Because that's incredible. And that was back in 2018?
Yeah, around that.
Yeah.
So, I was with Issa a lot. Obviously, it's my dog, it's my sis. And then I seen Brian was talking to him a bit. And then they were in the same vicinity. And I'm usually the worst at capturing videos, photos, anytime I'm out. I just don't think of it, right? But that was a time where I was like, I saw them both and they were right there like talking and I was like, oh, you know what?
It's a moment.
This is the time. I'm going, I was just like, hey, let's flick up real quick. Boom. And he was like, yeah. And then she put her in the middle. And the greatest picture I'll ever take in my life.
Ever. I mean, it's pinned on your IG for a reason.
It's pinned.
I hope it's framed.
I need people to know.
If it's not framed in your house, you can happily take that one. Like, you can keep it.
I'm gonna
take that one with you.
Okay, cool, yeah. My dad probably gonna steal it from me, but yeah, 100%. This is like, this is like the best.
Did Bron at any point say like, yo, you want to like time up, hit the court for a second?
10 day contract, man. Yeah, no, I've lost the idea. I don't think he's buying into it yet. But
he'd be like, I'm trying to get my son in the league.
I got 10 days in me. I got 10 days. Yeah,
people do it all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
Remember Birdman back in the day with the Heat?
Yeah.
That turned into
Master P, you know what I'm saying? But Master P could hoop back in the day.
100%. He did all of those tournaments.
For sure.
So that's one of the reasons I really want to talk to you, because I've tried very hard not to talk about sports on this podcast. But I think the great part is that in like having someone who's so excited, who's not necessarily in the sports world, it reminds me like how big a part of like my identity that is. And 1000%. Sometimes like, I don't know if you struggle with this in the world of performing arts and acting, but sometimes I'm like, damn, I'm more than just what I do.
Right, of course, 1000%.
Right.
You know what? I was having this conversation with, there's some guys that transition from being former athletes into what I do.
Sure, yeah.
But for the most part, you're gonna most likely be around or surrounded by people who have like a theater history.
Right.
Went to theater school, like, you know, all that stuff. And as much as I love and get along with all of them and admire them and respect them, like sometimes though, there is like a layer missing where when I do meet somebody else, like my boy Sinqua Walls, he's an amazing actor. He played Division I basketball at San Francisco and stuff. There's just a certain unspoken language we get. We understand each other. There's a way we carry ourselves. There's a certain confidence. There's just a certain thing amongst us. And so sometimes I do miss that type of camaraderie and certain type of conversations I can have. Because it's funny, I could be on like doing Clipped, right? Yeah. Funny enough, we're on Clipped. It's me, my boy Shell, he played DeAndre Jordan. He played Division I basketball too in Florida. And then our boy Jacques, who played Big Baby, he played football at Clemson.
Got it.
My boy Daryl played at Bowling Green, who played Jamal Crawford. And we were the ones that played ball, right? Everybody else, and it's funny, the guys are our 2 stars on the team, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin, the least basketball experience.
Stop, I'm dead.
Austin can't spell basketball. I love Austin. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. He's an amazing actor. But he can't spell basketball, right? He'll admit it. Lawrence Fishburne don't know anything going on in the world playing our coach as Doc, right? So being on it was so interesting because there's some people I talk to, but it was so funny because it's like both sides of me. I go and talk to about what we're doing and like other films, TV projects, whatever, and other interests. And then with the homies that are athletes, we talk to days. Ed O'Neill, for people who don't know, from Modern Family, Married with Children, he played professional football.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was on the Steelers for a little bit.
Damn.
He was like actually a professional football player, so he could talk sports all day. So Ed and Lawrence, 2 different conversations. Amazing. I'm talking about plays I've seen with Lawrence, and then after lunch, I'm talking about football all day with Ed, because being former athletes, we're just talking about things that we play. So it's funny, but I'm not on a set that required athletics.
Right.
So then when I'm on a set, it's like there might be a guy that's working production, transpo that played football or something like that, but none of the actors. They're all theater or something like that. So it is interesting and different.
It's interesting that you say that a lot of your roles aren't comprised of this athlete standpoint. Did you worry when you walked into this world that you would be typecast like, okay, we're only gonna cast him as an athlete or a farm,
That absolutely not. I leaned into it because my thing was like I'm 6'8", almost 6'9". Afro Latino roles aren't just written for me.
Correct.
So I'm just like, let me take advantage of what they're gonna cast me as, get my face known, work with different producers, create these relationships, and then hopefully that will then lead to them trusting me, because once they'll be like, oh, he can actually do his thing, that will lead to other stuff. And I and because starting out in the commercial world, that's how I got into business. I was just doing nothing but basketball commercials. Some football ones too, because I have football experience too, but like just mainly basketball, which was fine. I was paying the bills, all that, great. Right. And then starting out early roles, same thing. There's this movie called The Gambler with Mark Wahlberg, and popped into that, but it was just a basketball scene. I was like, all right, let me just get a movie credit, right? And then I was the lead of NBA 2K16 that Spike Lee directed. But that required acting, and I was the lead, the creative player, I was the lead in that story. And which led to me going into his next film and stuff like that, but it was able to still open doors for me. So I tell people, don't be scared about typecasting. If that, obviously there's a limit, I think. You don't just say yes all the time, but if it's gonna get you in there and get your foot in the door, great. Once your foot in the door, then you can start making decisions, which is kind of what I started doing, where I was just like, all right. Then once people are starting know that I could do that or what my background was, then I started getting all these, then I'm like, all right, hold on.
Now they know.
It's like, exactly.
Yeah. But I love that because I think it's still the industry and the mainstream is still catching up to what an Afro Latino is and how vast the diaspora is, and that we can look so many different ways, right? Because what the mainstream thinks a Latino should look like is very specific, and it's not us.
It's very specific, absolutely, 1,000%, yeah.
So what was your experience once you're like, yo, this is part of who I am, and it's gonna be part of the character most likely?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because, being a mixed black man and a Latino background, my mother being born in Panama, starting a business, to be honest, it was just mainly black. That's what to be honest, trying to get a Latino role for a while was very hard. And you would think it would have been the other way around. That's what I would have thought, right? Just thinking about the jokes, growing up, with the homie stuff, being light-skinned mix or whatever, being Latino as well. So you would think, I'm an obvious, presenting-wise, I would assume it looks obvious I'm a mixed black man. Right. So when they were calling for like black roles, I'm thinking I ain't gonna get that, man, because you know they looking for somebody that's full black. And sometimes I did end up getting it, or I would usually like book like the open ethnicity role too, so that would help. I'm like, okay, they looking at different races.
Open ethnicity.
Literally, they would like have a white guy, you know, a Latino, black, mixed, whatever. They'll have different guys going for a role, and that was why I was like, okay, there's a better chance. But when it came to like trying to get Latino roles, one time actually. I won't say the show, but there was a show where, as far as the character description, I mean, you know, he would have been involved with one of the leading ladies of the show, and they were the breakdown was like, you know, 20s, whatever it was, looking for like Latino or something, and so my manager pitches me, and then he follows up with them. He's like, hey, you know, I think, you know, this is right up his alley. He could, you know, do this. Yeah, we're looking for like Latino and stuff, and or like, you know, Hispanic and stuff. He was like, yeah, you know, he's Panamanian. And they're like, you know, like Latino. I was like, they said it twice for clarity.
Wow.
I said, dog, that's crazy.
I don't even know why that surprises me.
Is it? You know why? Because it's like, it's one thing they like. It's one thing them getting an email and amongst themselves like, no. But to communicate that to my team, I said, oh. What? And I was just like, then I was like, man, like when the ignorance is so far, they don't realize that was so stupid to say. Because I'm like, I ended up like telling my mama. I almost debated not to tell my mama because she was
she'll lose her shit.
And she did get mad. She was like, how stupid we were going in and stuff. So. But like, I was just like, man, wow, I didn't like I know we're behind in the it's like a concept to people in a sense. Like, but I guess now dealing with it where it affected my career in a way, an opportunity where it didn't allow me to get an opportunity because you're telling me what I'm not that I really am. Right. You know what I mean? I just was like, and that was kind of my first awakening. I was like, oh, and I started thinking, I was like, oh, I guess I don't go out for Latino roles or like get the Latinos. It's happening a little better now. Insecure was a big help in that, and like Insecure did two important things for me. A lot of things, but I'm gonna say two important things for me. One, this might sound dumb, but like I love that role because it didn't have anything to do with no street shit, and it didn't have anything with being an athlete. I wanted to normalize myself being my height and doing a normal role and being around other cast members, and it wasn't height specific.
Tall people exist without playing basketball.
I'm like, you know, not everybody make the NBA. You know how hard that shit is? I tried. It was hard. Right. Like, that's not going to happen.
Can't confirm.
It's like, dang. So it's like, you know, that was for that show to be so successful, and there's a lot of tall people on that show. Like Jay Ellis is 6'5" himself, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was that, and then also I love that initially it being a very LA show, it's very normal for them to see, you know, have friends or know people that are Black and Mexican mixed, right? Right. So that's what it was originally. But when I said, well, you know, I'm Panamanian, so might as well just make them Panamanian. Like, how often do we get to hear Panamanian? Oh, they're Panamanian. Correct. On the screen. Like, doesn't happen often. And they were so down with it and flipped it just because they were like, oh, yeah. Perfect. And I was just like, oh, that's amazing. And then Carlos Carrasco, who played my father on the show, and if people watch Speed, the scene Speed and everything and all these other ones, he's Panamanian actor, and he said that was the first time in like his 30-plus year career he portrayed Panamanian. He's been Dominican or Puerto Rican, he's been Black, Mexican, but he's never been Panamanian. And that was his first time, and that meant a lot to me. And he has like a Panamanian film festival now and everything, but like that was an important moment. And I was very proud of that. And also, like, you know, people could see me, but then not realize, like, Elan, who played Daniel in Insecure, is Panamanian as well. So I tell people, like, the range of it, yo, you know, it's just, I always, like, Laza Lanza always explains it the best.
He has the perfect quote. The best. Yes.
Always, he just talks about, you know, we lose focus on where the boat picked us up and want to focus on where it drops us off. And I was like, that's it. It just, you know, on my mother's side, they just that's where it went, you know. So yeah, that I will say though, but Insecure always like, you know, show that's always forever gonna have love in my heart. It's so important to my career, but also what it did out, not just for roles, but just like I said, normalizing my height and who I am.
Yeah.
You know, as Afro Latino.
I do love that quote from Laz Alonso
It's
because
so good.
I went to South Africa and I went to Reuben Island and it was such a moving experience. But there was this whole map there about the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah.
I took so many pictures of it.
Oh yeah, I know.
was like, I'm posting all this shit because
Yeah.
nobody pays attention to that. And I think another thing that he said, and I know what interview you're referencing.
Oh yeah.
He said we are black first and we don't stop being black.
Yeah.
And it doesn't diminish our Latinidad either.
No, not
right?
at all.
Like it's many things that exist in the same space at the same time.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the mainstream has a really tough time with that.
It's
like if you're not in a box, they're like,
yeah,
yo.
absolutely. And both in a weird way though, experiencing like, you know, having weird experiences on both sides, like, you know, even within the Latino community, you know, and also like outside of it. So like when he was talking like that, when he was breaking that down and talking about being black first, like so many situations came to mind, and just hearing people like, you know, and even like how they were asking him like, oh, you keep saying we, and I was just like, yeah, what the fuck? Yes, we. Hello? Also,
what are you
and
talking
she's biracial,
about? Right.
so crazy. But I was just like, but yeah, it's just, but I wonder, it's just like, a part of me thinks like, in you know, a theory of mine is just because American media is so huge and powerful and worldwide, and if it's not the most influential, it's one of the most influential. And then when we think about American media, we're going to think about who they're portraying. So then now when we see black people on our screen, a lot of time it's going to be through American media. So it's black Americans speaking a certain way, right? Speaking English, and that's it. And then knowing that, oh, the culture of slavery, yes, but we're talking about American slavery and slaves being here. We're not talking about the Panama Canal. Are we gonna wonder why there's so many black people in Brazil? We're not wondering why there's like, you know what I mean?
The biggest black population outside of Africa.
Hello, like that's why I say, and I'm just like, so because that's why I always thought, because the media is so strong, and obviously for years we've been portrayed a certain way, and black people are viewed as this, and now the black people they see, the most famous black people in the world are usually black Americans, whether it's Michael Jackson, Beyonce, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, whatever. So that's what it's supposed to be. And you're supposed to be speaking English if you're not from Africa. It's either African or black American. If you're from somewhere else,
that it's negated immediately.
So but specifically with like especially specifically with Latino, as soon as you speak Spanish, like, oh, I thought you was black, and you could be
and
charcoal
like,
black.
I am.
And you just like, no, I don't know how to. Like, I remember being on a baseball team and talking about how black, I was like debating with like teammates. I'm like, black baseball players are the best players like ever. I was like, you can't even, I'm naming people from, I was like, Barry Bonds. I said, Sammy Sosa. And they're like, Sammy Sosa's not black. He's Dominican. I said, excuse me.
Despite the transition he's gone through in recent years. But yes.
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 You look Pepto-Bismol. But like, that's a whole other discussion.
But
a whole other one. But yes, I was naming Vladimir Guerrero. I was naming all these Afro-Latinos. And I mean, these are like full black men.
Even if you're going back.
That's what I'm saying. And and they were like trying to argue me they're not black. And I said, bro, I was like, yo, like.
Do you have eyeballs?
Like, hello? I said, and I told him, I was like, that's like, I was asking them where they're from. I was like, you know, where were you born? Like, say, some said like Los Angeles, or like they're from California, or like they're from, you know, Florida or whatever, or Texas. I was like, okay, that's like me saying, hey, you're not white, you're Texan. Does that make sense to you? Right. And then then they started kind of getting it. I was like, you just trying to like the place he was born. That don't fucking matter. And then that's when they started like, oh, and I was like, dang, so I started seeing how ignorant we are when I was younger. I just was just so, every time it was like met in my face, I was just like, whoa, like, I guess I just assumed. It
really is. I had like a reverse culture shock because I grew up like you in the East Coast. So like New York, then Miami. So it's very multicultural, very. But I think for the Latino community, in my experience specifically, in New York and Washington Heights specifically, and in Miami, you lead with Spanish. Yeah. Like, doesn't matter if you're first, second, third, fourth gen.
Yeah, they speak to you in Spanish. Right. Yeah, 1,000%.
Now, not speaking Spanish does not make you any less Latino, of course. Of course. But it was really interesting to me when I moved to California specifically, meeting other young Latinos my age who are 4th, 5th, 6th gen, and they're like, oh no, like no one in my family speaks Spanish.
Far removed,
And I was like, wow.
Culture is different.
And again, like to that, here, when they immigrated here, it was like survival.
Yeah.
Do not speak Spanish. Like you got to assimilate as much as you can.
Yeah.
Or like in Miami, they're like, oye, es español, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
So like
you learn Spanish,
correct,
man.
yes. To this day in my parents' neighborhood, like the grocery store, Spanish.
Yeah, absolutely, 1000%.
So it was like a reverse culture shock to me. So I had to sort of check myself a little bit in that context specifically when people were shocked that I spoke Spanish.
Yeah, right. You know, it's funny because I always like joke and say like I'm half fluent. So what would happen is like I was fluent when I was younger, but
sure.
I
lose
just
it, though,
would,
if you're not,
my mom speak to me in Spanish. I talk to her in English and stuff. Also, it was helping her too.
Sure, yeah.
She speaks it great now. Good job, Mom. And, but it would still, but even if you're not speaking, what still was shocking some of them was like, let's just say there was some dudes like talking shit and they speak in Spanish, and I respond to them.
Excuse you, right?
And then they're all like taking it back. I was like, "What you taking it back?" I was like, "I've told people so many times before on Panamanian. Why are y'all so surprised? I know what you're saying,
right?
Because I understand it fluently, yeah. And so it's just like seeing the shock. It's I've seen it on I can't remember this dude. I don't know if you ever seen this clip. It was a radio station in New York, and there's an Afro Latino that works. He's like on the show, not always on camera, but I think they had like a Mexican rapper on the show.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, they were they brought up something about like, I think they might have been talking about someone who's like, who they were like surprised if they were Latino or not. And then they point out the dude, like, yeah, he's like, for real? And then he starts speaking fluent Spanish to the Mexican rapper dude, right?
Who does not speak
And then he
English.
was just like so shocked at him, and he was like, mira la cara, telling him, look at his face and stuff. And the dude was
be your own people, by the way.
It was so crazy. It was just like, but I realized though, and then like as far as like, I've kind of split time with East Coast and West Coast, right?
Yeah.
It's just that as far as like migrating, if you take it back from, people went to New York, that was a hub, you're talking about. And so there's just way more cultures.
Totally.
And I think a lot of more cultures that held on to their culture because there were so many different cultures, right?
Yeah.
We're here, Black, white, Mexican in LA or something like that, Southern California, you know? And I'm, moved out here as a child, IE, the Inland Empire and stuff. So in IE, it's not like ever so often there's a Puerto Rican, there's another Panamanian, a Dominican, right. And then the rest is Mexican folk, right? Yeah. So then they're used to how, they look to each other, even though they have Afro-Mexicans.
100%.
A bunch of them
I've
in
met
Mexico.
Tons.
Yeah, for sure, same. But like, I think they themselves, it almost is like, they treat it like as if they're from a homogenous like country or something like that. But in New York, I just felt they were just more exposed to different cultures, and so it's just not so, same thing in Miami. I dated someone and she's from Miami, and I used to always say how like she was born in another country. Like
100%.
I used to always joke and say like,
yes.
I was crazy. Yeah, I was joking like, my shorty, she's a foreigner and stuff. She's from
She's
Miami.
A foreigner. I mean, she's not.
She her first language was Spanish. Her mom don't speak. It's Spanish heavy. So, but yeah, it's
that's fun.
Very, very interesting. Especially how the coast, the worlds are different.
Yeah, but you're right. I think sometimes even amongst the Latino community.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we surprised at our own people?
Like, you should know.
Some of it is a miseducation, and some of it is just straight up like, okay, just be fucking for real.
Ignorance,
But I did visit Panama last year, and I loved it because it reminded me so much of Dominican Republic.
Absolutely. Where'd you go?
So much of it. So we were in Panama City, and then we took a little excursion.
Yeah.
It was quite the adventure. We cried the adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God we speak the language.
Yeah,
I was like,
of course.
My God. I was like, not today.
Don't veer off too much.
But we had a great time.
Yeah,
like, we were off the grid on like a little island. Like,
great.
They had like fresh fish. You know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely,
like,
1,000%.
Oh my God, it was so good.
Food's amazing.
How much of your upbringing and like of that Panamanian culture do you remember and do you look back on?
I mean, it's still ongoing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mother, she thankfully was very adamant about us being very aware of our culture and being proud of our culture and her culture and the country of Panama. to the point she made us like I danced in these cultural groups. You know what I mean?
And like the folklorico.
Yeah, she has a pollera, black house, all that stuff. Yeah. So I would like I was dancing in those groups with her. We would go to these events, and then like we were part of different organizations, Viva Panama, all these other ones. And so we're being surrounded by all these other Panamanians. So it was normal to me to see all the Panamanians that are in LA, because we are out here. There's a community, There is a community, and there's people I've met since I was a teenager that I'm still close with to this day. And I guess it was normal to me then, but now being older, more mature, and realizing just educating yourself more on stuff and having all these experiences, I'm so grateful and fortunate for that, because meeting other folks and being able to tell people, I'm like, oh, there's a group out here, and like if there's another Panamanian, and even if they're not Panamanian but they're Latino, I'll tell people, come just through. Like all my Dominican friends, Sasha, she has her parties and stuff like that, I'm getting invited to those, because I'm like, yeah, let me know. But I'm so happy, and it was so like the food. My mom will she'll still hook up a Panamanian dish. She'll take me to different spots. If a Panamanian soccer team is playing here, we're there. I took her at SoFi when we were playing USA recently. But yeah, like it was packed, by the way, that game. I was so like, whoa. Packed. Like to the brim. Yeah. It was good. Well, no, I'm sorry. It was Panama, Mexico. So it was lit. So like, but yeah, she was very, very clear on it. I don't even think that there was never going to be a choice about this, just because it's who she is. Right. And till this day, my mom still performs, and like I'm probably going to do
I know that's
they're going to have a parade at this month at some point. They'll do like Central American parade, the Caribbean parade and stuff like that. So I think it's a Caribbean parade, but I know she wanted me to do it. I think I'm going to do that with her too.
Oh my God, how fun.
Yeah, and she had my daughter in a pollera and everything. So yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
I love that, because I think for me, it's funny when you were talking about asking people like, well, where were you born? Where are you from? Like, I was born in the United States, but when people ask me where I'm from, I'm like, I'm Dominican.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Immediately what they asking too, though.
That's the default. But one, I know what they're asking, but two,
also, like, that's just
the I'm like, Dominican American, but like that stuff. Sure. Identity is a big thing. And
Absolutely.
I think even like the phrase Afro Latino is pretty new.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Like I always, growing up, I'm like, okay, morenita, but I'm Dominican.
Right,
like trying to figure it out.
True.
And I think now that it's more, and if people feel a way about like all of the self-identifying language now, which I'm like, thank God we have it.
Yeah, I'm like, sure, yeah.
I'm like, if you want to say Latinx, Latine, Afro Latino, whatever, like it is your prerogative, because we're all still trying to figure this shit out.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Like,
the world's catching up.
And where we belong too, like within all of it. And so is it even possible, you think, to people like to compartmentalize us? I don't like to do that shit. Like, this is the package, right? This is what it is.
Yeah.
And you're either going to take it or leave it. But I think externally, it's really hard to push past that.
Yeah. I believe so too. Well, I was going to ask you also, like, were you back and forth from like Dominican and Florida a lot? Like, because I'm about to say
constantly. So every summer,
anybody I know that's from Florida and Dominican or Cuban,
2 months
they're
in
doing
DR,
suicide sprints back and
every
forth.
summer. And then for the holidays, like, so that I lived there until I was 3. Then we moved to Washington Heights. I lived in Washington Heights until I was in high school.
Yo, the most Dominican American experience there is.
100%.
Like by the book.
You're it's like you're saying, I'm going
Miami,
to the U.S.
New York, like,
here's the path.
This is the rules for you.
Do not deviate. Then you can move to Miami or Orlando.
Yeah. Or Orlando, yeah. Your parents followed the rule book like to the T.
Play by play.
Yeah. So
it's unfucking real.
Funny.
I do have a lot of family in like the Boston Lawrence area. Apparently that's like the biggest, second largest population of Dominicans.
Yeah, you'll be surprised where, you'll be surprised where the other ones are.
How often were you able to go back to Panama?
You know what? Not often. Just honestly, twice. It was just like extended periods of time at the time too. But same thing, like you said, like 2 months stuff when I went.
My mom was like, "Go with your grandma, bye."
Yeah. My mom. When we went, my first time, I was like 17, 18.
Oh wow, you're much older. Okay.
Yeah, I was, and it was so separate for a long time as far as actually going to Panama and seeing my if they weren't coming here, I just didn't see nobody.
Got it.
But when I did, and like I said, like I was working out practicing with the Panama national team, which was amazing.
That's so dope.
And then my brother Leroy RIP, he was for years he was a very popular radio broadcast journalist, right?
Sick.
Yeah, so he like thought to his last day he thought
in
he was
Panama?
the coolest dude. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he thought he was cool. And see, but
Legacy.
because of that though, my mom was like the oldest of like 15.
That tracks. My parents, oldest of 10, oldest of 9. Yep, that's how it goes.
Man, I couldn't even meet all my family members.
My granddaddy was a doctor, so like you already know. You already know.
Yeah. So, you know, he was doing this thing. He was like 6'3".
He was out in these streets.
And he would be, every time he go on, he was like, soy yo. You know what I'm saying? That's how he always thought. He pop his car. I'm like, this dude think he's so cool. But yeah, he was.
And he was
cool.
low key.
He was, no, I ain't gonna hold you. He was. But that was a really happy time for me too. And I mean, it's a beautiful country. I always joke, me and my little brother, we were just like, you know, rubbernecks the whole time. We was looking like this, like, damn, look at her. Like,
listen,
what the heck? Like, it was
stunning
the
women.
Most beautiful country
yes,
ever. Yeah,
yes.
It was amazing.
The whole landscape. I feel now, I was actually surprised with how metropolitan Panama City is.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
I was like, it's very similar to Miami.
Yeah.
But
and
then
on American Dollar out there.
You have that beautiful balance of like drive out an hour.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
you're out of it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's so beautiful and so gorgeous.
We were doing everything.
Really, really
we got
dope.
family spread out, so that was amazing. But you know how that goes.
So how big in the times that you remember, or even like talking to your mom, like for me, and a segment we have on the show is Cafecito Conversations.
Okay.
So I feel like the Cafecito time is like standard.
Right.
Not just culturally, but also like, okay, that's the time to like unwind. So I'd love to get into Cafecito Conversations.
Okay, let's do it.
But we'll pretend, we'll salud.
Oh, okay. Boom.
Later in the day today. Bah.
Boom.
Okay, so you can like unwind a little bit.
Yeah.
One of the things that really stands out to me is how proud you are to be a girl dad.
Yeah.
And she is so freaking cute.
She is. I'm not biased. I know that's my child.
She is
but my child's very beautiful.
She really, truly is. It's really
stressful.
Is. How has she changed you?
Oh. Let me take a breath because I'll start talking about that. I'll start tearing up with my daughter. But she my daughter is a very bright light. And it's so interesting when I like talking about her. Yes, there are some ways she changed me, but there's also a lot of things she really confirmed that was within me, and made it even stronger. So I was already a protective family member, brother, son, friend, all that. And also someone who took pride in creating safe spaces for people to open up when they need to have vulnerable conversations. Like that's very important. Like with me amongst my brothers or like my homeboys and stuff, like I have strong brotherhoods and I always wanted it to be a thing. Like, we not gonna be that stigma, being men of color, not being able to talk about our feelings. Like I've always very, very much cherished that. And so just when I spend time with my daughter and like having conversations, like my main thing for her as she grows up, because she's 6 years old now, right?
Oh my God. 6 going on 16?
Yeah, man. And so, and like my main thing is, because I think about experiences, when I was in high school, college, and, girls I'd flirt with or date with, and paying attention, like, when the ones that had the super strict fathers versus the ones that were like had the cool fathers.
That was
like
me, super strict dad.
Yeah, and it's just like, I don't ever want to feel like she has to sneak behind me or it doesn't feel safe to open up. Like, no matter what it is, like my initial reaction is not going to be like, well, why did you? Like, no, I don't want my daughter to ever feel that. Not as the first man in her life that she's going to look to as an example.
Yeah.
And like I said, my daughter is such a light. She smiles so much. She's just like, she loves dancing. She loves princesses. She's such a girly girl. I never thought I'd be in this position where I was like, man, it's one thing to have a girl, but I have one of the girliest of girls.
A girl after my own heart.
I mean, yeah. So like, the things I watch, the things she's into, being in that. But like, I will say she's also softened me up as far as in the sense of like, just being. I find myself being way more emotional when I watch videos or movies, anything family, anything that's heartwarming, I find myself being just touched way more.
Yeah.
In these like, and especially if there's like Coco.
I can't talk about it. I cannot.
Like,
oh, that
every
movie
single
me.
time, every single time. And she'll want to watch it.
Ugly
and
crying.
I'm like, I never used to like, I could get misty-eyed in movies. Before my daughter, misty-eyed. That was a pocket. I'm still showing it. I'm comfortable. Yeah, I'm crying a little bit.
Good,
cool.
it's fine.
After my daughter and watches it, I'm crying in movies. Like my face changes. You know when you like, you know,
you
like that. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, and you know, he's singing to her daughter and stuff and everything in the movie. I just like, man. And now like with her, she's definitely grown my heart in a way. And when I thought I was already had a big heart and I was a really giving person, but I mean, she's made me so open and vulnerable. And I just want to be a big thing with me too is because I always like put pressure on myself wanting to have this space with Zen. That's my daughter's name, Zen, for the people who don't know. Like communication, I want it to be so clear.
Yeah.
And I have noticed that even though communication has always been something I put effort in, I am more aware about how clear I want to be.
Right.
Especially like when I have her, talking to her if she's made a mistake, if daddy's made a mistake, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because also, I'm now, it's much easier to apologize now.
Okay.
Versus in the before. That's the biggest change. Because even if she does something wrong and maybe like I kind of talk to her a little too stern, like off the rip, and she'll say sorry to me. She's very like, my daughter will be like, okay, like, I'm sorry, daddy, okay, I won't, you know, I won't. She's like, now can you say sorry to me? Well, when she started doing that to me, yes. When she started doing that, at first I was kind of like, the ego.
Let me tell you, she is wise beyond her years.
People always said that. I remember, shout out to Lauren London, when we were doing Games People Play, my daughter was months to a year old. Like, I remember Lauren saying, like, she's been here before, bro. And
Old soul.
Like, yeah, she'll like, because she's basically telling me, like, you know, check my tone, how I talk to her. Like, you know, you didn't have to talk to me like you could have talked to me, like, you know. Yeah. And I remember the first time she did it, like I said, it was like my ego was kind of like trying to be like, I'm the dad in this, right? Like, what the heck?
Sure.
But then that was like, that's when I said, I go back to what my goal is with her and making her feel safe and comfortable to come and talk to me. When she said it, I was like, let me check myself and be like, I said, okay, I'll check my tone. I said, okay, yeah. Well, why do you want daddy to apologize?
Right.
And then she's like, well, you were mean and you were talking to me mean. And I was like, oh, daddy, sorry. I'm so sorry. Daddy didn't mean it. But and I was explaining it to her.
She's going to rule the world. I just hope you know.
Gosh, and then
she's
like.
She's going to rule the whole world.
You start getting emotional moments.
She's
like
self-aware.
Having those.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah, she'll tell you when she wants to be alone. She's been doing that for a minute too. That hurt my feelings first time she did that to me. I ain't gonna hold you. I bet. Like we do our thing. We'll watch like a goofy movie, all the Disney classics. We raising her right with taste, but like she got great taste in movies and music. But like, you know, and we're in my room. You know, so getting later and stuff. Like, let's watch a movie. Cool. What do you want to watch? Okay. And she'll like, Daddy, can I watch the movie by myself this time? Can I be alone? And I'm just like, okay, I'm not gonna violate her space or boundaries. Right. I'm like, I want to spend time with you. This is, but I get it. Sad, but okay.
Ouch.
I was like, I'm proud, hurts, proud, but hurts. And then, but I left. I was like, you know what, baby? Yeah, I'll let you have the room. Let daddy know whatever you need. I'll be downstairs.
She said, I need a minute.
She just said, yeah. And I could see her do it when, like, if we be at the park and there's kids, like, I could see her, because I do this even if, like, we could be at an event. I'll, like, shut down by myself in a moment. I see her doing it. She'll just, like, step kind of away and unplug.
Introverted, extrovert? That's me.
Man, yes.
Because like, once the social battery runs out.
Yeah. I used to think, I grew up thinking I was an extrovert. I guess too. I was probably. I've evolved different.
Like,
get off of me, man.
Go away.
How many people gonna be? What's the capacity? You all gonna be there, man? What's the parking like? But yeah, just these questions.
The parking is very important.
But she's already there, and she's there already.
Wow.
She's already there. So like, yeah, I'm very proud to have like this very self-aware, very in tune. Like she's very. It's touching when we have those moments, because they make you self-analyze as well in that moment. Like when she's telling me to apologize, I'm like, oh wait, let me think about what I'm like, oh yeah.
Not the kids providing free therapy.
I just like, and she also knows things. Like she putting her hand on my like knee, like, well, because like, girl, can you? And she knows. I'm just like,
I'm shook.
Like I try to be.
It's a wrap for you.
Dad. Oh my God! I try to be this stern daddy. You know what? Man, because the first day when she was born, I was the first person when she opened her eyes, I was right there. And I remember telling her, I was like, man, yo, this is crazy, right? I'm your daddy.
That's cute.
And she was just like looking at me. I was like, let's just establish this now. I don't play that shit, so let's just keep it cool. Let's just establish this now.
Yeah.
And like, I remember I got that from Martin on one of his stand-ups. He was talking about that, and I was just like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let me establish it.
That is a good idea. Day one.
And she doesn't like test me. My daughter listens to me. Like she's very like, if I'm like, you know, some kids will fight, and I mean, I was lucky. She sleep through the night. I'm talking about since newborn, not cry. And
you won the lotto.
I honestly call her a trap baby. It makes you want to have another one. I was like, yeah, don't do it.
And I don't have kids, but I know better.
Yeah, exactly.
I have nieces.
Oh, okay. That's where you thrive. You Thea, right?
Thrive. Yeah. I am bougie Thea, and I love that
Rich
for
auntie.
me.
We love rich auntie vibes.
Love that for me. But they are, my youngest niece is 6.
Okay.
And she does test everybody.
Oh, really?
But I'm the one where I'm like, I invented that move. Okay.
I see you, girl. You ain't fooling me.
We're both Scorpio. Yeah. It's too much. I was like, you met your match, kiddo.
See,
not today.
Taurus.
Oh my God. Do you think you're a gentle parent?
I think that I wouldn't say I'm a gentle parent, but maybe some gentle parent residue on me. But
adjacent.
Gentle parent adjacent. Because I will, I do get stern when I need to. Like if she's not listening, then but it's like, but yeah, like I would say adjacent just because, like I said, like if she won't ever fight me on sleep, it's time to brush her teeth. She pops right up, goes right up. Like she just doesn't do that with me. You know what I'm saying? Like she might try her mama sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like that's
little girls always try their
That's just how it is. I didn't try my daddy. I did not do that. But my mama, sometimes I was like,
you'll push it.
I'll do it in a little bit. Hold on.
Right.
Man, she was like,
they don't play that.
Yeah.
What's the next chapter look like for you as you look at your career, your life? Like, what are you excited about?
I really admire people like Spike Lee, Issa, what Issa Rae's done for people, just because if you look at them when they're starting out, a lot of times when you're creating something, they're going to want, understandably so, attach big names.
Sure.
There's only so many big names though, right? And then there's people that's like, no, I want to do this with, like Issa wanted to do this with new faces, with people that, and give people opportunity. And getting more so on the producing side of things, I write as well. I really look forward to being able to create an opportunity, like, because what Spike and Issa has done for me, like I said, there's only so many that are like me. Like I said, 6'8", 6'9", Afro Latino life. That they literally, because of their decisions, take a chance on me. And what's that led after that? Like I've had this whole career where I'm able to support myself, family, my daughter, and stuff like that, and see, go to amazing places, meet amazing people, just from people taking a chance on me, an opportunity. And maybe they're not like thinking, I'm going to do this for this person, but the simple fact of that they trusted me with their vision is something I can't wait to do. I honestly cannot wait to give opportunities to people who deserve it. Like some of the best actors I've ever met were in acting class, and people who haven't got their shot yet, or people maybe called it quits before they, could really like stomach it out. It's just a lot of rejection, and it's not easy for a lot of people. I get it. But yeah, and it's so to get in that position to do that. Watch my daughter's a full-on human being now. She's 6 years old. It's just the other day she was this. It's crazy. Just keep watching her grow. I'm really excited to see what. So my daughter, she's high functioning on the spectrum, right? Her memory is really great. Really if you're watching a movie with her, like she could face you, the TV behind her back, and she's doing not just the dialogue, but all the mannerisms of everybody.
Wow. Like the recall is like
verbatim.
Yeah.
I remember like, because this honestly, I knew she was always doing that, but when she started acting it out, and we were watching Moana, and like she was doing like from the manuals of the chicken to Dwayne Johnson's character to everybody, I was just like, oh wow. And I was just like, her memory is just, her recall's great.
Probably photographic.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what she chooses. What's her interest that she's like, oh, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that chapter. I know it's gonna come at some point. I know she loves dance. Her mother used to dance and stuff like that as well. Was into dancing, so it kind of makes sense, and I love that as well. That she will have somebody to go to about that. So I'm really excited about that, and just also very excited about the unknown, that spot, just the excitement of like, we'll see what I'll roll into as well, outside of that career and the father, like just see what else, like what other new interest is gonna excite me. There's some things I want to try out now, but just to see what I actually follow through with, so I'm excited.
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say I'm excited for the unknown.
Really?
People are scared of the unknown,
that's
right?
That's also true,
of change, of all of that.
So
that's powerful.
At some point it was, especially when I was an athlete.
Sure. Yeah.
That was
because you want to plan it all out.
Playing and then going from country to country, playing overseas. It was just like, that was not. But now, again, talking about maturing and growing. The main thing is I know who I am. I'm very comfortable with who I am. Doesn't matter.
That's important.
What being in the public eye like we are. You'll see people try to make, define you and tell you who your character is. You don't know them from a can of paint to nothing, never seen them a day in your life. And for some people, it can mess with people's head if there's thousands of people doing that. Those people could tell you and have this idea of you, preconceived notion of you, lie on you. But I think once you get to a place where you're settled into yourself and you're secure with yourself, whoever's insecure has that journey to handle themselves. It's not your burden. It's not your responsibility. They're just projecting onto you. And that's been one of my life lessons, just to not take things so personal. Because I used to take things very, very personal.
It's hard not to take shit personal.
It's hard not to, especially once you get in the public eye. That starts getting hard too. But that being in the public eye has also been one of the greatest tests in my life to really show, okay, well, you said what you got to work on. Now you got to put it to practice. Are you really going to practice how you play? So, so yeah, I would say those are the things I'm really looking forward to. What about you?
Oh my God. I'm really looking forward to taking more investment in myself, to your point. This project is why I'm so grateful for you and everybody who's come on. Yeah. It's a passion project, but something that I very much feel like I had to do for us, because these spaces don't exist. And so it's having the courage to be like, even if it only resonates for those who get it.
Right.
I'm happy with that.
That's how I am,
So leaning into that power of being a creative, of owning my IP, of self-funding and just getting into it and saying, you know what? I'm not going to wait for somebody to greenlight me. I'm greenlighting me.
Man, that's a beautiful thing.
And so, that's what I'm
That's very empowering. I can't tell you how excited I was when you reached out and I was seeing. I was like, oh, this is great. Because obviously I know she gets it.
Right.
But I tell you, my invitations when it comes to anything related, with the Latino stuff, it'll be far few in between. So when I do, I get excited. I'm like, okay, they remember.
And that's the part. That's
so
the point.
I was so happy. So I'm really excited.
This worked out. Thank you so much, and for being so open. And
appreciate you. Yeah, for sure.
Can't wait to have Zen sitting in the chair.
Yeah. That was great.
So you see, this is what I mean by those who get it, get it. There are just certain life experiences that you don't have to explain to certain people. And even if you're from a different country, like Sarunas and I, Dominican Republic and Panama, there's so many layers that connect us and a thread that keeps us together, where there are things that he just inherently understands about the culture. And I think we're all still trying to find that connective tissue. And it doesn't have to be just Afro Latinos. I think the more you speak with people, the more you sit down and forget about the boxes, you can truly see a person for who they are, for what they've experienced, and how there really are parallels to your own life experiences. Not always, all right? That common denominator is an important thing in community and just feeling seen and heard. But overall, I think the vulnerability that having a common thread brings can't can't be explained. So I want to thank Sarunas for being so open with us, for sharing stories of his daughter Zen with us. She will absolutely be sitting in this chair one day. I don't know in what capacity Auntie MJ will be, but much like he said, I'm excited for the unknown, and having that perspective of knowing that the future doesn't have to be defined, and neither do you. We'll see you next time on Becoming Undefined. Bye.